If there's not a system in place to capitalize on awareness fades.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks, where we talk about the entrepreneur mindset, everything from Main Street brick and mortar business to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Welcome back to Clicks and Bricks, everybody. My name is Ken. Today we've got James Patrick, has a whole bunch of different companies, and super excited to have him on. But before we jump in, if you would like to join my text line community, 314-370-2871. Just send me a text message and say hi, or you can ask me any question you want, completely candid, about business or technology. I'll do research if I have to, but I will give you an open, honest answer at no charge, completely unbiased decision or opinions there. So, how you doing today, James?
Ken, what is going on, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm loving the background. How do you get that? Is that a red light that you have, or just a cool background?
Oh, it's just a little glow stick in the corner. Total. Yeah, like it's not low tech. It's like no tech.
But low tech or no tech, high quality design. So that's awesome. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So I think the umbrella there is I'm a photographer, I'm a business coach, I'm a podcast host, and included in that could mean a lot of different things, from public speaking at events to being guests on shows like this, to writing books and kind of everything in between. But really, I would say my constant or my through line is I focus on creating both art as well as opportunity for those that I work with.
Fantastic. And then can you give us, if somebody wanted to research and learn more about you, where would they do that at?
Well, that's easy because it's just my name, jamespatrick.com. That one was like, trying to get that website was like several years in the making, trying to get that domain and once I finally got it, now I'll never let that thing go. Too much equity in that.
If you can get your name.com, I've been trying to get kencox.com for like 15 years.
It's not an easy, there's too many Ken Coxes. I worked with a Ken Cox.
Yeah, it's just, I can't get it. He will not sell it to me for any amount of money.
Well, here's the thing. You're Ken Cox asking for kencox.com. You got to get.
I've hired brokers. Yeah.
Oh, you did? See, that's what I had to do.
Yeah. On the side, I'm a boxing coach, and I really want to coach Kenny.com too. And
I like that.
He literally, and we went to hire the broker, and we ticked up that bid so many times, and then finally he's just like, I'm not selling it for any amount of money. I'm like, son of a gun. Like,
stringing you along.
Yeah, and like, you're a local. He's a local, softball coach in some community, which is fantastic, but he hasn't even been a coach in a while. He's just sentimental to his name, and he will not let the name go. So I had to go coach
he'll
Kenny
turn that
Cox.
into his memoirs at some point.
Absolutely. So, but I'm gonna keep trying, right? And keep chugging along. How many times were you told no before you got jamespatrick.com?
Well, I wasn't told no. I was given such an astronomical price early in my career. I'm like, there's no way I can afford that. So I went back 2 years later, but I had a broker do it for me, and I got it for 1/10 of what the asking price was originally. So then it was like, okay. Yeah.
Right. Keep asking from different directions. Like,
you
whatever
don't
it is,
you
if
don't
you got
ask
the
for.
name. Right. Absolutely. Fantastic. So can you tell us a little bit about, so you've got a couple different things going on, but your first jump into business ownership or entrepreneurship, however you want to call it, was in the photography business. Can you tell us a little bit about, I feel like in today's world, we're going to be moving and there's going to be more independent employees, more 1099 workers, more and more entrepreneurs and business owners out in the world. Can you give us a little bit of information on your transition from wherever you were to saying, you know what, I'm going to have my own company and do this on my own instead of dealing with somebody else's decisions. I want to drive this ship.
It was something I kind of battled with for a while. Out of college, I took what I thought was going to be a safe job, which was in marketing. And just to give, perspective, I graduated college in 2006. So shortly after graduation, we hit the recession in 2008. And I watched the company that I was with dwindle from, I think our local office had somewhere around 139 employees. And, at the deepest part of that recession, we were at, I think, 39. 35, 39. So we watched over 100 employees from our office disappear. So this idea of safety and security within corporate America was more of a facade than what I initially thought. But I really resisted just being a photographer, working as a photographer, because there's judgment that we fear could come when someone says, what is it that you do? And if you were to say something that is a passion project of yours, or something that you invest a lot of emotion into, and people don't respond with enthusiasm, or they don't respond with excitement, or if they respond even with questions that you're not prepared to answer, a lot of fear and imposter syndrome starts to turn up. So even when people would ask me, what do you do? I wouldn't say I was building a photography business, between 5 p.m. and 6 a.m. every day, which I was. I would say, well, I just work in marketing. It was a safer answer. There was no follow-up questions that really came from that. And then at some point, I even remember I was at some networking party, and I had been at my marketing job at this point, maybe 6 years, 7 years. And someone said, what do you do for a living? I said, well, I'm a photographer, and just fired out of me. I was like, that was that light bulb moment for me where I was like, okay, maybe I actually can start making this transition. I mean, at that point I was working 2 full-time jobs. I had my marketing career, but any evening, any weekend, any sick day, any vacation day was pouring into the side business of my photography business. And at that point I realized, okay, it's time to actually start building the path to walk away from this career, this guise of safety or security of regular paychecks and 401k, to build something of my own, something that is mine and that I am in full control of. And that's when I really started to make that direction and that transition.
Fantastic. So all growing up, and if you follow the show a lot, I've got a stepfather, and he always told me growing up, like, get a good factory job, work for the union, get your pension, do that for the whole time. And he did that until he was in his late 40s, and the company busted up and they left him, and he didn't get his pension, right? Or he got a very small fraction of what that pension was. So one, I didn't believe in the beginning because I knew I was never going to be a factory worker. But two, when that happened, it really solidified for me, there's just no way that I can go and follow the same path that my predecessors did. The people that were teaching me what I'm supposed to be doing. It became very obvious that they weren't happy with their lives until they started their own business. And that the corporate America job just wasn't everything that was cracked up to be. It wasn't a full-fledged, there wasn't full transparency there. And entrepreneurship, business ownership is very hard. It's very challenging, but there is full transparency. It's up to you to sell the product, or you won't eat. It's just that simple, right? So, getting out from under what seems like a security blanket of corporate America or working for somebody else, when you're doing that, you have a sense of security. At the end of the day, it's a false sense of security. You don't have transparency. You don't really know what's going on. So, if you don't want to be blindsided, own your business, and then you don't have to think about that. So, fantastic transition story. So obviously you've got the photography. What came next, the studio or the podcast?
So everything kind of overlaps, honestly, with the exception of the studio kind of has come up a couple different times. We own a production studio. It's a photo studio, video production studio, and podcast production studio here in Phoenix, called the Hive Studios. And that idea has been bubbling for several years. It just took until really earlier this year to actually open it up in a full-fledged way. But so much of what I do, with photography, that was bubbling beneath the surface while I was working in marketing. And, then after doing photography for a few years, then this idea of getting, I'm doing all this work, helping people who are asking lots of questions from, all right, how do I actually market all these assets that I'm getting from you as a photographer? What does that look like? Well, I just spent 7 years working in marketing. I understand that nuance. Let's have that conversation. I realize that I'm having lots of conversations with individuals about their brand position, their brand marketing, and the actual monetization of their brands. So I said, well, why don't we build something around that? So that's, I created an event called FITposium, and we've been doing that 8 years now. From FITposium came a myriad of different podcasts through different names and iterations and angles. I've been doing my podcast now, Beyond the Image. We just surpassed our 300th episode. And that was a branch off of the conference. The coaching that I do, the one-on-one coaching, my mastermind, all a branch off of the conference. My book on fitness business was a branch off of the conference. So the conference, I think, was that next piece of this puzzle that helped bring people together, because so much of what we do, whether it's sitting behind this microphone trying to put out a podcast to a group of individuals, or coaching, or my book, or whatever it is we're trying to bring people together to have conversations. Ultimately, even on social media, we're trying to engage and have conversations, just in a different way. The conference was a way to do it in a very tactile manner, where we had people there in person, sitting together, sharing best practices, helping each other to see potential breakthroughs on barriers that one another were dealing with. And that really opened up so many more opportunities. I mean, you put yourself in a room with 50 other people, which is what we did our first year, and you say, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm trying to go, this is some of the obstacles that I see in front of me. You're going to get 49 different perspectives on how to break through those obstacles. And that right there is a wealth of opportunities and experience and ideas that you may not have had beforehand, because, well, we're stuck in our own heads all the time.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I love what you did with the FITposium and correlate fitness, physical fitness, with business fitness. The two are so similar with the strategies and techniques that you have to use to move forward in either one of those categories. And we bring a lot of fitness professionals on Clicks and Bricks to talk to business owners about the importance of maintaining a healthy lifestyle in your business, and it's arguably the most important thing that you can do for your business. So I like how you did that mishap on the words, the FITposium for fit business. It's really important stuff, and on both sides of the fence. And I don't want to talk, I don't want to go into the fitness world at all for this episode, but I do like that you did that. Today's age is probably, we're sitting at a crossroads in our world today with this new technology that we have, and outsourcing and automation's gotten so good that the day of the starving artist, I think, is gone, right? And today an artist has real world applications that they can do and jump into and really make a living moving forward. So can you tell us, James, a little bit about what you think technology is going to change, how you think it's going to change the storytelling? Because that's really what you do with your podcast, with your photography, with your marketing, your coaching. You're coaching, you're helping other people tell their story, right? Or uncover their story, one of the two. But really, that's in the essence of what you're doing. What do you think the future of technology, and how is that going to change the storytelling industry as a whole?
You could look at this a couple different ways. As someone who's been in the photo industry for a couple decades, what I've seen from, if I were to look at just photo technology alone, it is something that concerns a lot of photographers, because they're nervous that, well, if technology surpasses where I'm at, I become irrelevant. And that could churn up a lot of fear. And I can understand that. I mean, I saw it when I first got into photography. It was a shift between shooting just traditional film for commercial projects to shooting digital for commercial projects. And there were a lot of photographers who were hesitant that were saying, no, real professionals only shoot with film. Only amateurs are in this new technology of digital. Well, what happened? Consumer demand dictated digital assets. And unless you made that transition, you became relevant. Same thing happened with social media. And there's so many photographers who are saying, you know what? Real clients will never actually want to hire professionals off of MySpace at the time. They want to use lookbooks, and they want to use in-person meetings, and they want us to send out our books to them and shop our books around Manhattan. The real way real pros do business. Well, what happened? Consumer demand dictated that we wanted to find and connect with people leveraging social media channels. So unless you were there, unless you had a presence, you became irrelevant. And, we saw the same thing with the recession in 2008, which is where so many photographers are saying, all these new young professionals in the industry, and I guess they're talking about me, they're changing the industry too much. They're giving away too much. They're doing photo and video. They're giving away all their rights. They don't even know what usage is. They're undercharging. They're devaluing the industry. They had it backwards, though. Yes, the industry was changing. Yes, clients were getting a lot more assets and a lot of different assets and different services, but not because new professionals were coming in and giving it away. It's because, once again, consumer demand wanted something else. So in all of these instances, consumer demand wanted something else, and there were individuals trying to hold on to what was once before that helped them be successful, that had shifted. And they were standing at the edge of the world, waving their arms, just waiting for things to, how many times have we heard this, go back to normal. All right, wasn't going to, never was. And we saw iterations of this again in 2020. Now, this is not to diminish or to minimize a lot of the struggle and hardships that lots of entrepreneurs had in the last 18 months. They would be insensitive and inappropriate to really, diminish that, because there were real struggles and there were real shifts. But a lot of the changes we saw in the last 18 months would have happened anyway. It just got accelerated a lot faster. Now, that put a lot of pressure and a lot of undue and a lot of negative pressure on a lot of businesses. And I understand that, absolutely. But here's the interesting thing, and the silver line that I kind of see, particularly within a lot of the industries that I work within, is where control has shifted. So let's look at this as a business owner as well. If I, as a business owner, wanted to get my message out to a large number of people, historically, there are only a few ways in order to do that. There are only a few methods and channels in order for me to be able to achieve this. And the barrier was revenue. And if I did not have the revenue to run a certain number of ads or to get in front of the right individuals, there was a gatekeeper there to block that. All right. And those who were able to invest in the right advertising or get in front of the right individuals or the right corporations or get the right financing were able to scale. Okay. We're able to get their message out. Now, today, I'm watching independent business owners, solopreneurs garner as much attention, as much awareness, and as much credibility as large organizations in a fraction of the time, because they're able to move faster, they're more agile, and they're able to connect with their audience on a one-to-one, very authentic, very transparent level. That has never existed before. Last week, and this ties it back into art as well, last week I saw that Shape magazine, one of the top newsstand publications of the last several decades, announced that they were having their final issue, for their final print issue. And, I look at that, I'm like, wow, what a shift, that another one of the giants in the print industry goes down. And what does that mean for art? What does that mean for photographers? And once again, I realized, this is this large corporation, which before was a gatekeeper. So let's just say you were in the health and fitness space, getting in Shape magazine, getting a feature in Shape magazine, getting your story, your brand, your ad in Shape magazine meant something. But now I can build just as much leverage sitting behind this microphone. I could build just as much leverage self-publishing my own book. I could build just as much leverage cultivating my own email list. And that is, I think, the point is, we as not just artists, but we as entrepreneurs have control and dominion over our message and how our message gets in front of our audience, and that has never existed before. So that's the silver lining I look at when I look at how technology is impacting not just art but entrepreneurship, and where this is going to go from here is we have control and we have dominion over our message, as well as over how we communicate to our audience and how we get that message in front of our audience. And we're even seeing that now, where this guy shift away from just a reliance on social media. Social media, you do not own your audience. You can't call Instagram to say, hey, can I get a CSV file of all my 10,000 followers because I want to send them a thank you. They're not going to do that. But if I shift them into subscribing to my podcast or getting on my email list or getting on my text list, I saw you drop your text number at the start of this. There's no algorithm preventing people from opening up your text message. If you send out great text messages and you have great conversations over text, people open your text message. It's as simple as that. It's complete meritocracy. That's what I'm talking about, is the future is we control the message, we control how we're connecting with our audience and what we're putting in front of. And I think that's a really important takeaway that we can have, kind of today and looking forward.
And what James is talking about here a little bit is we've been going through this decentralization of information for a long, long time, right? And on the other side of that right now in the world, we're going through a decentralization of finance as well. And the number one piece of advice that I have for any photographer or artist out there today, if you're not diving in deep into what NFTs are and what smart contracts are, you're behind the game right now. I think you probably have a year of before you're going to be irrelevant. But if you're not looking at how to deploy NFTs to sell your art or your projects long term, I think you're making a giant mistake. NFTs, this is the first time in mankind that we know of at least, right? Could have happened a billion years ago, we just don't know that. But right now with NFTs, an artist has the ability to get upside from the secondary market from his artwork or her artwork. So meaning that if you sell a piece of art today with a smart contract, you can do a smart contract with that piece of art and say, hey, I want 10% of whatever this sells for in the future, and that smart contract will manage that. Doesn't necessarily have to be you, it could be your estate. So just think about it, Da Vinci's family was still getting 10% of every time a piece of his art sold, right? And that's the power of when people talk about blockchain, yada yada, all that crap, there wasn't really great uses for the blockchain even 2 years ago, but today NFT deployment with stuff like OpenSeas and Rarible and those guys, you can really make the difference. I worked with an artist that was doing acrylic painting, started in the mid-pandemic. He was selling his paintings at a flea market for $30 a pop, went through, changed everything that he does, started telling his story, converted into NFTs, and now he's selling it for $17,000 a painting, right? So that's the wild difference. And understanding that technology today, it's going to change. It's changing really, really fast. But we'll give you an edge in the VR and AR world because that stuff is coming. And if you're doing art for business, every business is going to have a VR or AR experience, right? Just like websites in 1999, that's what I was selling in 1999. Guess what I'll be selling for the next 10 years? Get your VR space, right? Because it's coming with Facebook's announcement of the metaverse. It's going to come to businesses and it's going to come at breakneck speed. So be ready to start taking pictures, doing artwork for all of these businesses that are going to need to make this conversion. And I think that's going to be another catalyst for more solopreneurs and entrepreneurs to get in, is all the everything that exists today in the real world has to be recreated in a virtual world. And the kids are going to make it happen. They're not going to have anything less, right? They're not going to let us not do VR, right? So
this all comes back to, what do people need next? It's great to deliver what they need now. What do they need tomorrow? And right. I think you really pointed out you hit the nail on the head, which is this is coming, and you could be at the forefront of it and start delivering on it now, so that when this does come full swing, guess what? You're already at the front of the line. You're first in line to start capitalizing on it, or you could try to squeeze in, as an early adapter. But at that point, you're still kind of behind the first few who got in on it.
Right now, things that you're going to have to figure out is what hardware do I even need to own to be able to do this stuff, to produce this kind of content, right? So the people that are figuring that stuff out now, we're going to have a huge head start in this game. And there's enough work for everybody in this game. Like this is nothing. Everybody's going to have plenty of work to do, and there's going to be, I think, more millionaires made in this VR gold rush than there were in the real gold rush, right? So
I think every time there's a big shift, we're just going to keep pushing that finish line even further, and and I think here's the important thing. Like if there's a listener who's listening to this who's getting fired up and whose brain is firing on ideas, that's a great sign for you to sit down and really start to ideate out what are some things that you can start piloting out and testing. And if you're listening to this and you're getting stressed out and you're like, oh God, another thing, another change, you know what? That's also something to really tap into, because, okay, well, what does that mean? What do you want to do in this new ecosystem? Because if it's not, you know, this example that we've been diving into, that's fine. There's no shame in that. This is not about, you know, shaming people who want to do something different. But what does it look like for you? And getting some clarity on that. Because if you don't have clarity on that, that's when I think people get kind of left in, you know, kind of in the background when the dust settles and they feel like, well, I just kind of got left behind. But if you have clarity on what it is you actually want to be doing, you can start trying to make those steps in that direction early on versus being forced to do it later.
Right. Absolutely. And this is not, you know, this is a time in technology that I think is really super unique, right? Whenever we were talking about bringing stores online, you know, a lot of brick and mortars were hesitant to say, well, what's going to happen to my brick and mortar business? And that was a legitimate concern at the time. Unfortunately, we lost the Kmart's, we lost a lot of ventures, we lost a lot of retail stores to Amazon's, and Walmart stepped up to the plate, right, and really does kind of compete with Amazon. But, you know, we lost huge staples in our world, like Circuit City, right? It was gone to these kinds of things. So .com bubble was really an or, your online store or your brick and mortar store, but virtual reality is an and, right? It's not going to destroy your current business. It's going to be an enhancement to your current business. And I really think that you have to look at it like that. Because if you think that VR is going to take over your current business, if you think that, you're just going to probably die. Whereas if you adopt it and you enhance your current business with it and make virtual reality experiences inside your business, I think you really have a good shot at creating something really cool and unique that people will be flocking to your business in a virtual world and a real life world, right? Because now they get to experience it kind of, not an actual experience, but a simulated experience of what your actual business would be like in the store. But I definitely think every product you have, if you sell online, you're going to have to digitize it, make it 3D rendered so that they can drop it in their cart and the drones will deliver it to their house. All right? I mean, that's coming, right? If you don't think that's coming, I think that's here in 5 years, pretty quick, right?
I mean, it's just fascinating to think how, for me, it's exciting because I can kind of have a foot in both worlds. I can keep my foot in, you know, tangible services and or goods, but then also, okay, what would that look like? Like, you know, as you're talking, like, what would a virtual photo shoot look like? That's coming. I even saw, it sounds creepy as hell, but I saw some photographers doing Zoom photo shoots or FaceTime photo shoots during 2020, which felt creepy and weird and a little voyeuristic, but I was like, that's interesting. I wonder what could come next. And then as we're talking about this, it's like, oh, well, there it is. It's an augmented reality or virtual reality photo shoot experience, still creating imagery, but in a completely new way, shape, and form, telling a story in a completely new way, shape, and form. Why not? I mean, you know, it was like not long at all ago, in order for me to record this podcast with you, Ken, I would have to drive out to you. We'd have to sit in the same room to set up some mics and hit record. This right here is a revolution in how we're connecting with each other. So how I create visual arts, same thing. It is going to be revolutionized, and I can have my feet in both, should I choose. And that to me, that's exciting.
Right. And we're hoping they might kill me when I walk out of this room. We're hoping by January of 2022 that we're shooting potentially with our Quest headsets on, thinking we're sitting right next to each other. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, we're headed down that path. So I love this technology. I'm super giddy. This is like, you know, I feel again like I felt in 96, 97 with, you know, Merc and online chat, like I did in 99 when everybody in the world was buying a website, you know, the software stuff that we've done. And then, you know, the most recent was just the blockchain, the cryptocurrency in 2012 was, you know, a whole lot of fun for me for a couple of years. So this new VR with the announcements from Facebook and Microsoft in this game, and they're creating these worlds. The hardware is really starting to get there, and the software is getting there. And unfortunately, society is running there because of the pandemic, right? They're in the habit of not leaving their house already. So, and I think there's a lot of stuff there too to be dealing with, because we're going to have to be combating the bad parts. If you're a parent and you thought screen time was bad with a 7-inch phone, full immersion is going to be something that you have to manage, right? As far down as China has already made laws banning kids from being online more than 1 hour a day during school days.
I saw that, yeah.
Right? So, I mean, China's taking this stuff seriously. We live in a free country, thank the Lord that we do, and I'm super excited about that. But with that freedom comes some responsibility, and you're going to have to be responsible and teach your kids that they can't just go into a fully immersed world and live, right? Because at some point they're going to have to go out in the real world and survive, right? This is, kind of like a bird that you mended with a bad wing, and you put it back in the wild, and it gets, taken by a hawk as soon as you let it go. We don't want that to happen to our society either.
It's so akin to that. I'm blanking on the author, Ready Player One and Ready Player Two.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there a Ready Player Two?
Yeah. I read it, not as good. Kind of a rehashing.
Okay.
But the Ready Player One, didn't care for the movie, but the book was
the book is phenomenal,
wildly addicting. Yeah.
And
the sequel did a little bit of the same.
And I'll tell you, I listened to the audio version. Will Wheaton reads it.
Yes, I did too.
And he knocks it out of the park. It's about a 25-hour investment, I think. But I think it's so worth it. I listened. Me and my daughter did a 14-day road trip and listened to it the whole time. I think we listened to it twice, actually, back to back.
Yes, I will echo that, because I also listened to the audio book. Will Wheaton crushed it. I usually have to do like a 2x or 2.5x. I just always find that Audible, it's
right.
Just that one beat a little too slow, where I want them to just say the words a little faster.
Now, I would say I do that on like self-help books. Like I did that on Hook Point recently, right? I read the book, or I listened to Hook Point on a plane. I knew I had a 2-hour flight, and I only had 3 hours of a book to read, so I kicked it to 1.5. But when Will read, like, two of my favorite books to listen to are Ready Player One and Green Lights by McConaughey, because McConaughey reads that book to you as well, and his voice is just so damn soothing and funny to listen to. So those are I think my two favorite audiobooks.
Oh, Hook Point, Brendan Kane.
Yeah, Hook Point, really good book, especially for marketing guys. If you're a marketing guy, it talks all about headlines and offers. Is really what he talks about. He's also the same guy that did the 1 million Facebook followers in 30 days.
Yeah, we had him, Brendan. We had him present at our conference, and that's what I was like. Hook Point, that rings a bell. So yeah, we had him right the year he launched 1 million followers. We had him as one of our speakers.
I like Hook Point more than the 1 million followers by quite a bit. I think it's a more powerful book.
A little more real world application versus like 1 million followers felt like this is a case study of how I achieved this, and here's a template example of things you could copy from this. Whereas Hook Point, it's like addressing more the application in the broader sense of how does audience building and awareness growth actually fit into your marketing ecosystem.
But you made a statement really early in this podcast about imposter syndrome, and if you do read the 1 million followers, and you're starting to build a following, and you're starting to get that imposter syndrome, 1 million followers will help you, right? Because one thing it does solidify is that everybody in the market is a pay-to-play marketplace. This is not a marketplace where you think you can just go and create content in the ether and then you're going to get 1 billion followers, right? You've got to put in the effort. You got to put in the work. You're going to have to buy ads. You're going to have to do all of those things to get the exposure that you really want. And I'm not saying that you can't do, a dozen TikTok videos and go viral. But if you don't have a plan to execute on that viralness right after it happens, it's just going to go away in a couple of days, right? I know 20 people that have gone viral on TikTok for one video and didn't do anything to take that to the next level, right?
So two things I want to hit on that, because I think it's important. The first is like You're absolutely right. If there's not a system in place to capitalize on awareness fades. There has to be something. And I work so much with entrepreneurs who are trying to earn media features, be it podcast spots, magazine spots, radio, TV, even digital publications. And if there's not an ecosystem set up, I land someone on a cover. Guess what? They have 30 days that cover's on a newsstand. And after 30 days, I shot a new cover and we're going to swap out that magazine. So if people are looking into you during this 30-day window, called the newsstand window, and they're not quickly and immediately understanding who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why it matters in the context of their lives, what you do for them, why they need to pay attention to you, they're just moving on to the next thing because we have such a micro attention. So I think having that in place of this is what I do for my audience, and having that hyper clear is important anytime something like this comes up. Otherwise, what's the point of audience building? You just build really attention without a nurtured awareness. And the second thing is, I'm so glad you brought up imposter syndrome, because a lot of 2020, I kept wearing a shirt that said imposter on the shirt, and I actually put out some ads and some promos where I just say, listen, I'm an imposter. My name's James Patrick and I'm an imposter. And the reason I said that is I think we have a misappropriated sentiment towards what imposter syndrome is. Our feeling about imposter syndrome is that it's a sign that we do not deserve to be doing what we're doing, that we do not have the right, that we do not have the permission, that we do not have the experience. But here's the truth. I had no experience in photography when I picked up a camera. But what I did was I turned my career as a photographer into shooting more than 500 magazine covers. I had no experience when I sat down to write a book. Never written a book before, but I wrote what became an Amazon bestseller. I had no experience recording a podcast, but I sat down, churned out some episodes, and now our podcast, has hit charts across the world. Here's the point: is I was an imposter in every one of those things. Imposter syndrome does not mean you do not have the right to do something. Imposter syndrome means you're figuring out how to do it in real time, and that should be something we celebrate. And that's why I wore that shirt that said imposter. And I just encourage people: be an imposter means you're figuring it out, and that's okay. It's okay to figure things out even in real time.
Absolutely. I like that you took that imposter syndrome and kind of flipped it on its head, because it is a real thing, right? And when you start getting a little, and I didn't even know if imposter syndrome existed until about 3 years ago. And I have a program called Smart Recovery, and I'm in there with the part of, and I go to the fancy part of town to go to my meetings. I don't go to like where I live, because then I'm in there with doctors and stuff. But a doctor was telling me about, she's got imposter syndrome, like she does all these meetings and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, that's a weird thing to have. And I didn't really get to experience it. And I've done some, I've had $1 million contract sales and things like that. But really until I started getting in front of the camera every single day and really getting up and doing public speaking on a kind of regular basis. And then, now I know that every single video that goes out is going to have 2,000 people watch it in the first day. Shit starts to get a little weird in your head. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's okay. It's you got to find help, but imposter syndrome is a real thing, and don't let it deter you from just keep moving forward, because you're learning, you're tasting life, we're all doing it. If you've got the balls to turn on a camera and start talking to it about whatever the topic that you are comfortable talking about, run with that as fast as you possibly can.
Here's the truth. I've been doing this for a few years. This idea that at some point you get confident in doing this, that's a lie. I am just as terrified launching a business today as I was 15 years ago. That fear never goes away. I'm just as terrified releasing content now as I was, my first post. And that fear can be brought out large the first 1-star review you get on a project, where someone says, I don't like this. And we focus on that. Like, I can look at, the hundreds of 5-star reviews and ignore them entirely, or I can look at the ones. I got an email right before we jumped on. I got an email from someone who did not like that there was a typo in one of our recent podcast releases. So he made sure to email me this, just to let me know that there's a typo in this. Okay.
Right.
When I worked in journalism, I worked at a newspaper. I would have someone, and it was unsolicited, and they never put a self-return address on it, so we never knew who this was from. But every issue of our paper, someone would go through with a red Sharpie and find every error in a newspaper, which, by the way, if you ever are curious, there's a lot in any newspaper across the country. There's a crap ton of errors. And they did it, and we would get this corrected version mailed to us, to our newspaper office every week, about all the errors we made. So that's the fear. It's like, oh, we're gonna get caught. Someone's gonna shine a light and they're gonna find the mistake. But you know what? There's gonna be mistakes. My first podcast sucked. My first photographs sucked. Even photos I take today can suck. You know, I posted this on social media the other day. I do a cover photo shoot for a magazine. Let's say I take 500 photos to get one cover of the magazine. This is all about perspective. You can look at the fact that I took 499 photos that did not work. They did not make the cover. They did not work. They were failures. 499 photos were failures. Or you could look at the fact that one of those photos made the cover of the magazine. So that photo was a success, or you had 499 failures. Same result, the outcome is the exact same. It's all the perspective and how you look at it.
Absolutely. I think my first 50 episodes probably sucked pretty bad. I'm not sure where we started getting better. And then even that, you know, there's some like in the 50s, like 60s, our mic was all screwed up, and you know, we had some technical difficulties we didn't know about for a couple days. So yeah, it's okay to screw up. It's not okay to quit, right? So just keep moving forward. Love all the insights. Thank you so much. We're wrapping up the show for the day. Do you have anything that you would like to leave the audience with? Tips, tricks, you know, whatever, anything that you have to talk to the audience about?
You know, I'll just go back to clarity, because I think that's so much of it. I don't want to get on a soapbox and kind of like shame people into doing something that they don't want to do or it doesn't feel right to them. And I think a lot of entrepreneurship kind of falls into that realm, and it's unfortunate. But get clear on what it is you want to do. Set a clear vision. Doesn't matter what it is. If your vision is you want to work 8 hours, then go home and watch Netflix and hang out with your family, do that. That's fine. There's no shame in that. Just acknowledge it. And if your vision tells you that you want to create something that hasn't been created yet, start thinking about what that is and put that vision down, because when you craft a vision, every day you live with purpose. So vision leads to purpose. And once you leave with purpose, or you're living with purpose, that's when you start to create the legacy that you want to have. And those are really the three tenets that I hold near and dear. Is vision leads to purpose, purpose leads to legacy. So that's what I would leave your audience with.
Absolutely. And when you're thinking about that purpose and you're doing that vision board, I've got a couple projects right now that I want to work on that I'm kind of holding off, because I know the amount of commitment that's going to take, that if I start down that path, it's going to be a big commitment. I don't know if I'm ready for that commitment yet or not, but it doesn't mean that I can't start writing the business plan or even doing some test case scenarios to see if I would even enjoy doing the kind of work that this concept is, right? So I've got a concept that I want to execute on. I think I want to execute on it because I think it would be great work for a lot of people long term, but I don't really know what the work's going to look like until I try it. So doing case studies and trying different things that you think will be great is absolutely acceptable. And when you were talking about imposter stuff, you're going to be an imposter. You don't know what you're doing, and that's okay. Just play, right? Just have a good time, learn the tech, learn the skills, learn whatever it is, and it will help you in everything else that you're doing as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you so much for your time today, James. I very much appreciate it. I'm positive we'll talk again, and I'd love some information on your convention as well. So I'd like to hear about that. That's it for today's show, folks. My name is Ken. Again, if you'd like to join my text line community, it's 314-370-2871. I'll never try to sell you anything on that line. I'll just send you tips, tricks, updates, and every now and then some crypto and NFT news. That's it for today. Get to work.